KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is First Things First, and my very first thing today, every day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and pushing the envelope. Yes, that is my job. That is your job. That's our job. So it's a Friday. It's a Freedman Friday, Reparations Day. Around here every week in hour 2. So the show has a different structure. Hour 1, we look local, left coast side of town. Hour 2, we do Freedman Friday, a comprehensive reparations conversation. Today we'll be joined for that by activist Riza Islam. Hour 3, we do, it's kind of a grab bag. Hour 3 on Fridays. It's kind of a Friday freestyle. Today we will have rap artist Jay French, who is we're going to talk about race. He has a whole campaign, No More Race, and it's centered around a song. And you know, the whole concept of race is one that we talk about a lot. It is one that I have strong opinions on, and certainly it's a match for reparations in that convo. So it's going to be a fiery Friday around here. Buckle up. Let's do this. Hour 1, of course, my friend and colleague who comes every other week. He is the president, CEO of ES Advisors, a public policy consulting firm. He's worked for many an elected and many a campaign. He's also a contributor here at KBLA Talk 1580. Ed Sanders, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. How are you? Happy Friday. Ready for the weekend.
Yeah, same. You know what? It's funny because I just had a flashback. I guess I'm doing Fox Soul tonight, which I haven't done in a long time. We did that bit together on the Tammy Mack show, and then that show went away. Now Don Amici has a show on Fox Soul.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's doing relationships. Don Amici, of course, a KBLA alum and the voice of the station. He's now got a thing going on Fox Soul. So I guess I'm going on tonight to talk about relationships. Not that
that should be fun.
a subject about which I am not an expert. In fact, maybe they should get you. You've been happily married for how long?
Oh, we're 17 years now.
Yeah, I think you would be a better guest. I don't know anything about relationships. Apparently, I am not good at them. Anyway, I digress. I know you're mourning your Lakers.
Yeah, I still am. The Lakers are, I don't know what to say. In 2 weeks, I'll say it was a good season. The midseason trade for Luka was exciting. It brought, one of the best players in the league, but ultimately they didn't have enough to compete against, a younger, taller, longer Timberwolves team. Right now it stings, right? I'm not even watching the rest of the playoffs. And the first round has been, really an exciting round of playoffs for the NBA. But, we'll lick our wounds and see if LeBron comes back and see if we can retool. Yeah,
well, I'm sorry that I'm sorry, actually, for me, too, because I like the Lakers, and I'm sorry for LA, but hey, we can't be too greedy. We get a lot of wins in a lot of areas, and what about those Dodgers? Anyway,
exactly.
So we are already feeling a lot of the policies of this administration in Washington, this Republican administration in Washington, already feeling a lot of those repercussions, local repercussions. And I have some, at least one crazy sheriff's department story. We'll get to that in a bit. But I wanted to get your take on a few things that are going on around here that I just haven't had a chance to talk about because it's been so doggone busy. So the House, you know that KBLA is on a climate justice mission. It's one of the things we talk about. We're really clear that environmental justice is racial justice, that this whole, environmental racism and the disparate impacts of these policies means that it is an emergency always for the Black community. The climate emergency is a low-income persons and Black persons emergency. So House Republicans voted Wednesday to stop California from requiring dealers to sell more and more zero emissions heavy-duty vehicles. So this looks like they are moving to stop California's leadership role in pollution, emissions, greenhouse gases. California is a huge state with a lot of people. That would be a ginormous blow if this is implemented. And they're talking about voting on other policies of ours, the ban of gas autos by 2035. And 11 other states have the same ban. So if they implement it, this is a big setback for progress in the climate emergency. Thoughts?
Yeah, look, you lay it out right. The Trump administration and certainly the far right has really a nonsensical, view of climate change, and they run their policy by creating trigger words, and climate change is one of those trigger words that makes people in the middle of the country jump up and grab pitchforks. And California has been a leader in reducing emissions because we study and look at the science and the impacts of a lot of the industries that produce these chemicals. Heavy trucks, we're here in Los Angeles, and for those of us of a certain age, we can remember the smog levels. You used to turn on the television the same way you look at the weather, you would check the smog levels. And, on bad smog days, your kids couldn't, participate in sports.
Yeah. Cheap gas, bad
policy.
smog.
Right. And we forget those days, but it took, sound policy to start removing the emissions so that the air here in LA would be clear enough for us to live. And, you can't just blanketly, well, the Trump administration is, but it's the silliness of it, right? We know that we want to find ways to reduce those emissions. We want to find ways to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, and, certainly be a better partner to the environment, because we're going to need to be here. We're going to live here.
Yeah, we have to have a habitable planet. This is now in the hands of the Senate. And it's, we'll see what they do. I guess the Senate parliamentarian said they're not even supposed to be voting on this because it's not a regulation. But I don't think Republicans care about what the normal procedures are. And they're saying California shouldn't be allowed to dictate the policies of the nation. But it looks like, why shouldn't we? We're the fourth largest economy in the world. We pay for, we're like the sugar daddy for all these red states. Why shouldn't we be able to dictate it? We're going to have to pay the price for all the cancer, asthma, whatever happens from these emissions. But of course, big oil and the auto industry is behind this.
Yeah, and it's also recognizing, the value or the impact of the Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach, right, Port of Oakland, as entry points for products from overseas, right? So much of the U.S.'s market comes into the country through those ports. And if you can clean up those ports, then, you really are making some lasting impact.
Yeah, it's a good point. We're not just isolated to California. Those ports feed the country.
Right, exactly. But to your point, we work here, we live here, and it is good policy for us to, take care of where we live. The industry is pushing for it. Have been working with the ports, have been working with the state of government, on these goals. They negotiate, they figure it out. The Trump administration is really sort of jumping into the fray. almost after the fact, because all of the industries, all of the like the ports work towards these goals and set them, and they set achievable goals. Those companies don't want to harm us as much as we don't want to be harmed, and are willing to work with it. And so when the Trump administration jumps in, it's not just that they're being pushed by industry; they're just jumping in sometimes.
Yeah. Well, oh boy, the Trump administration is intervening in a local use of force case around the sheriff's department, and this is crazy. We'll talk about that when we come forward. I'm Dominique DiPrima. He's Ed Sanders. That guy over there, he's Miles Lowe. And you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
If you missed our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall, the Altadena Eden Fire, 100 Days and Counting, you missed an evening of reverence, reflection, and reality.
You gotta live in the reality, because this is it. Every day, you wake up, is this my life? Don't stay in denial, because yes, it is. Don't stay in bargaining, where you're praying for a miracle, and if it wouldn't have happened, then this is what I would have done. It did.
Our panel participants kept it real. Really real.
I think, number one, it's amazing to me how we ignore systemic racism in our community, and as a people, we've apologized for so much, but when will we stop apologizing for what we have paid for? Because the truth of the matter is, we paid for this.
You can always count on KBLA Talk 1580 to give it to you straight, no chaser. When you love folk, you tell them the truth. Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
KBLA Talk 1580 and the California Black Chamber of Commerce invite you to the Small Business Development Workshop, How to Do Business with California Government, on Thursday, May 15th at Victory Park in Pasadena, 2575 Paloma Street. Get certified and register as a new bidder. Sell products and services to the state. Learn about pre-bid events and more, and it's all free. All you have to do is sign up at www.calbcc.org. That's www.calbcc.org. Registration for the Small Business Development Workshop, How to Do Business with California Government, begins at 9 a.m. and the workshop concludes at 1 p.m. on Thursday, May 15th at Victory Park in Pasadena, 2575 Paloma Street. This is a community call to action from the California Black Chamber of Commerce and KBLA Talk 1580. Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, you're back to me and Ed Sanders, and it is a Freedman Friday, so we are looking forward to that. And like I said, the show's on fire today. We've got Riza Islam, Hour 2, and Jay French, Hour 3. Right now, you got Ed Sanders. And look, this, you guys remember the case, the Winco store, this crazy case out in Lancaster where these two older adults were basically victims of excessive force. I'll say the sheriff's deputy threw this woman down on the ground. She is an older American. She's what you would think of as a senior, and he was convicted, and found guilty by a jury of using excessive force. He pepper sprayed her. This was in June of 2023. The deputy's name is Trevor James Kirk. He was found guilty of one felony count of deprivation of rights under color of law. These charges were brought by the Gascon administration. This is the reason. Remember, I was talking earlier this year when a bunch of sheriffs refused to take part in this race that they do every year because they were mad that this guy was convicted. Well, now the brand new Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney, y'all's friend, former Republican State Assembly member Bill Asalee, has decided to review the conviction. They put out a press release saying that this was a politically charged conviction. What? You threw a woman down on the ground, an elderly woman, and pepper sprayed her and her partner, and that's politically charged. The thing is, this sheriff's deputy was looking at mandatory sentencing, a mandatory maximum of 10. He would have been doing jail time. And it looks like the Trump administration is trying to move it down to a misdemeanor so he can get a slap on the wrist. And here's the crazy part. Apparently, there was a plea deal on the table from the DA's office, which he rejected. So imagine this. Imagine, Ed Sanders, you reject a plea deal, you go through a trial, you get convicted of the greater charge, and then Trump can step in and say, oh, no, we're going to offer you the same terms of the plea deal. So it's like there is no risk. Why would any cop ever take a plea deal? Why would any cop ever admit guilt when they can go through a whole jury trial, get convicted, they're about to be sentenced? I think it's May 19th. It's Malcolm X's birthday, the sentencing in this case. And then the Trump administration can step in and strip away the will of the jury. It's making my head explode, Ed Sanders.
Yeah, it's there's so many things here, and it doesn't do the case or this conversation justice if listeners don't go back and watch the video, right? And
it is on video.
The sheriff deputy.
Yeah.
And to your point, when you see an elderly woman being thrown to the ground and threatened, he's going to punch her in the face, and all these sorts of things. It really underscores the violence that this deputy was inflicting on this woman, and why the case was brought in the first place.
Right.
And true to life, we talk about this often. The union that represents the sheriffs will ignore that. And, the point of them not participating in the race run from Baker to Vegas, the rallying all sheriff deputies, or 20 of them across the state to this officer's dog toy there, to this officer's cause, it's really problematic because, we've talked about the role that police unions play in criminal justice reform and slowing it down, and this is another example. And Trump will always answer the dog whistle from those organizations, right? The Fraternal Order of Police and all of that drive Trump's view of police activities. And, the further we go down this, the more upset I get. I know you're upset about it because, to your point, you strip back this case and it does open up. It makes it okay for officers to treat, particularly black residents, right? Because that's generally what we see being treated overly violently, without really, really due cause. And so, this is upsetting. We look forward to see what happens here.
Well, it's upsetting. It's a rare conviction that law enforcement very, very rarely held accountable for murdering, roughing up, stealing lives. And it's a rare case when actually there is some accountability, and now they're reversing it. It's in alignment with what this president and this Republican Party was calling for on the campaign trail. If you remember, he said complete immunity for officers, which seemed very strange considering he just pardoned all these people that attacked cops at the Capitol. But this would be a method of not just changing future policy, but going back and undoing accountability under the law. There's a word, we were talking about this with Dr. Melina Abdullah yesterday. There was an emergency meeting in Minnesota because apparently there's credible evidence that the Trump administration is planning to pardon Derek Chauvin on the anniversary of George Floyd's murder. And this kind of is in alignment with that. Bring in a Saley and undo a conviction of a terrible incident that was caught on tape.
Yeah, and on the Derek Chauvin case, I can remember back in 2016 when he was running for office the first time. The fervor, the police union chief there in Minneapolis was one of his biggest supporters. In fact, when he did a rally in Minneapolis, it was that police union head that introduced Trump to the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And it does not surprise me to hear that, as sickening as that is.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's just frustrating to hear stuff like that.
It's also fascinating to me to watch them roll out this playbook of how they are going to create methodology to allow complete and total immunity for cops, meaning police can just kill you, throw you down, pepper spray you, and even be convicted, which is only, I think, 1 or 2% of the rare cases that are even brought that get a conviction. So it would pretty much be de facto total immunity, which, I guess is what y'all voted for. But for me, it's not a good sign. And I continue to be baffled as to how people are okay with this, how any black person is okay with this, for sure.
Yeah, look, I think the majority of us are not. And, I think this is one of those areas where we look at, quote, our allies, right? And very particularly, cases like this unfold, if the Chauvin is pardoned, I know where our representatives, I know where our political leaders are going to be. And, I certainly want to see them, ring the bell, but I'm really looking for our allies, right? How many of the Democrats that are elected in white districts will stand up and say that this isn't what's, what this country should be defined by? And sometimes it's the scarcity of their voices that is the loudest, right? And so we've got to continue to check for them, ask them very pointedly to stand up.
Yep. Wow, a lot going on. We got news, traffic, and sports here. The government is going to try to take Harvard's nonprofit tax exempt status, even though they are capitulating to them around DEI. And we'll look at that when we come forward. And he has signed now an executive order to defund PBS and NPR. They are moving fast. We've got news, traffic, and sports here. Then more. You're welcome in. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is touting his fiscal 2026 budget as the best budget ever. It's a $115 billion plan that focuses on public safety, affordability, and quality of life issues. The mayor notes that there are no tax increases or job cuts.
We have not raised any taxes. We have not laid off any employees.
Mayor Adams says he's proud of that and will deal with whatever comes. A memorial to those killed in the Uvalde school shooting has been vandalized. The town's police chief called it senseless and cruel and says it has inflicted more pain in the Texas town west of San Antonio. Uvalde police say they are working to identify the individuals responsible and will hold them accountable. And jury selection starts Monday in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial after he rejected a plea deal. Little is known about the deal other than it included a lighter sentence in exchange for a guilty plea. He faces life in prison if convicted. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers get it done. They avoided elimination in the NBA playoffs Thursday night with a 111-105 win over the Denver Nuggets at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The first round series is tied at 3-3. Game 7 is Saturday in Denver at 4:30. Live coverage on TNT. The Clippers got a strong game last night from their big three. James Harden led the way with 28 points. Kawhi Leonard, knock on wood, had 27 points and 10 rebounds. Norman Powell dropped 24. If the Clippers can go into Denver and win Game 7, they would move on to the second round to face the winner of the Houston Golden State series. Golden State is up 3-2. They can close out the series tonight at home in Game 6. Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka said significant changes with the roster will happen in the offseason. He emphasized that LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves will not be a part of any trade talks. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
The Comedy Connection series featuring KBLA's Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady. We're going to transform relationship disasters into stand-up material live at Inglewood's Miracle Theater on May 31st at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My clinical team will disclose all of your dating woes, while the alpha male of comedy, Ray Grady, has hand-selected supremely talented comedians to roast all of our tragic relationship choices. I dare you to bring your ex's phone number, because Ray, he's going to text it live, and the crowd will be sourcing emojis. Tickets are moving swiftly, so don't hesitate to grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before I diagnose your dating history as a pre-existing condition.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, fly privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the...
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
February is African American and Black History Month, and LA County Library is celebrating the voices and achievements of African Americans throughout the month. Join us for art workshops, family story times, and more. Revisit classic literature from African American authors and discover new favorites. It's a month of learning and fun for library lovers of all ages. Find out more at www.lacountylibrary.org and celebrate Black History Month at LA County Library.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, Ed, correction here. What I was talking about regarding this cop, the Trevor Kirk guy, the deputy, who is looking at having his cake and eating it too, thanks to Bill Asaley, the enemy of. Oh wait, the guy that you guys thought was going to bring a reparations bill. Anyway. Turns out, no, I'm wrong. It wasn't brought by Gascon. It was brought by the Biden administration because they're federal charges. So this is, right. This is a correction on my part. But apparently, Hochman could still bring felony charges here locally, and that would be some stuff. I mean, that would be wild. I would be surprised if he does it. But he claimed when he was campaigning, I got the receipts. He claimed he was going to be the hard middle and that he would hold egregious police behavior accountable. So this is a perfect time for him to prove it. I mean, you heard the Tavis's editorial. He wants equal justice for, between Curran Price and Kevin De Leon. I couldn't agree more. But this would be really something if District Attorney Nathan Hochman decided to bring felony charges. That would mean that whatever happens federally, the guy would still be facing a felony, even if the Trump administration dialed it back to a misdemeanor, or convinced the judge to dial it back to a misdemeanor or whatever. That would mean there would still be real accountability. What are the odds, Ed?
Let's just say I'm not going to go grab my life savings and bet it. You're right. It was federal charges, and Hochman does have the ability to bring local charges, state charges here.
County, yeah.
We I don't know. We'll cross our fingers and have to just continue to apply pressure to him.
Yeah, apply pressure. That's the key. I think the community, we should, I got to find out who this judge is, but I think we should definitely reach out to Mr. Hochman, especially all y'all black people who voted for him, and I know who you are. I was walking and driving around the community seeing a Black Lives Matter sign right next to a Hochman for DA sign, which...
But you know what, Dominic? This is also more the conversation of the allies, right? There are so many groups that advocate for women's issues. There are so many groups that advocate for seniors. This isn't just a black issue. This was a black elderly woman being assaulted. And, there are other religious leaders throughout the city that could join us. And that therein is the question, right? Like, how do we get the broader fabric of not just LA County, but this country to re-engage on the vision that, the United States, remember when we were taught we were young, it was a salad bowl or the melting pot conversation. But we're getting to a point where, this country and this administration is driving it, where, yes, there are differences in communities, but you don't hold one or two communities above everybody else under the color of law. And that's what the Trump administration is driving in this country right now.
Yeah, well, it's also a critical lesson in the fact that right now, the Rodney King methodology of going to a federal civil rights case when you don't get justice in a local racist jurisdiction is not going to be applicable, at least for the next 4 years, right? So, and whatever is left of the Justice Department after that, we shall see. So at this point, it's kind of the script is flipped, where if you want real equal justice, we may be looking to county district attorneys and state attorneys general, who are California's suing. I think there's like 15 lawsuits already against the Trump administration, but there are others too for various things. So it's going to be a completely different model of getting justice. And so, hey, if you got some spare time today, call Nathan Hochman's office. And I don't know if you guys remember my friend and sometimes contributor, even though she was working for another radio station for a while. Anyway, Carrie Harper was the attorney on this case for the Winco victims. And so I was actually in conversation with her, and I hope to have her with me in the studio next week to give a more detailed conversation about what is going on in this case, because there's some other alarming details that I don't feel qualified enough to break down that she can break down. And I think community response is going to be key here for the judge, for the district attorney, and just for the media and the way they cover it. All right.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. So yesterday, the president the leader of the Republican Party signed an executive order to cut funding to PBS and NPR, who he says are biased. I mean, they're about the most painfully objective, which I don't believe in that, but painfully fair networks on the planet. But he's cutting their funding, requires that they root out indirect sources of public financing for those news organizations. So they're going to not just take their grants, they're going to find out anything else that supports NPR and PBS and go after them. This is about $500 million we're talking here. Thoughts?
That is, I'm trying not to scream because Democracy Now! is one of my favorite shows to listen to with Amy Goodman and Juan Gonzalez. Perspectives, I hate the idea of silencing different perspectives. We talk about it here on the local side. The LA Times is now owned by a billionaire, and we see how that ownership shapes the narrative around our life in Los Angeles, how our political leaders are viewed, all of that. And when you start silencing voices, this question of American freedom of press is, it's a bedrock of this country. And, we're also seeing, it's not just the silencing of voices, it's the punishment, it's the authoritarian.
I mean, that is dead. That is dead. That's dead as George Washington at this point. When you got CBS, ABC, NBC writing checks to the president only based on a threat, right? When you have the defunding of these networks, it's the White House picking who's going to be in the White House press corps, kicking out the Associated Press and putting in Breitbart. I don't see where that bedrock where is it? CNN and others have already warned there are anchors and contributors not to criticize the president. Freedom of press is RIP.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was talking about it with a friend yesterday relative to the NPR piece. There is, and it's a different mode, but the ability to create, shows like this and take them onto podcasts and off of, say, the main broadcast is an important piece. But that doesn't mean that the administration won't go after the podcast, because I've seen podcasts targeted and taken off of platforms, very similarly. And so, how this unfolds and how people get sources of news and information off the beaten path is going to be just a challenge.
I mean, in my list, I forgot to say that Brendan Carr, the new head of the FCC, is already trying to go after people's licenses. He's already trying to abolish DEI within the FCC, which really isn't a thing. And so that, having a dyed-in-the-wool Republican who wears the little golden Trump head on his lapel, threatening broadcast organizations with their licenses and saying he wants to end DEI, of which doesn't even really exist in broadcast. What we know is that we're only in the beginning phases of the shutting down of our voices in the press. That's what we know. 800-920-1580. You want to talk to me and Ed or the KBLA delegation in general? I'd love to hear from you. I always do. We'll continue this convo when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
We are. We might have to do a speed round here because it is a Freedman Friday. We'll be talking with activist Riza Islam on his views of reparations, and you're always invited in at 800-920-1580. So that means, and then we've got Jay French. Hour 3, we'll be talking with the rap artist and activist around the issue of race. He says, no more race. Call us Americans. And so we're going to be going in on that. So we got to cover some of these national issues too, Ed. And the Trump administration is replacing the National Security Advisor, Michael Walls, apparently with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Little Marco on the rise here. He's, I guess... I didn't realize you could be Secretary of State and National Security Advisor at the same time, but apparently you can.
Yeah, well, I think it's interim, right? Or is he going to be the...
yeah, it's interim, but still, those are two big jobs. It's like you be the president and the vice president. We good. Of course, This is all about the signal chat situation where, Pete Hegseth and company were talking with people who have no security clearance in an unsecured app, and he's going to be the sacrificial lamb here.
Yeah, well, I think in Trump world they feel like he did it on purpose, and it was a matter of time till they moved him out.
I mean, but they're making him UN ambassador, which is hilarious to me. Like I don't know what he knows. He's got to have something on somebody. Like you get fired, but you get. And your consolation prize, you get to be an ambassador to the UN, which we hate.
Yeah, but I don't understand, Trump, right? All of us sort of watch and see how he operates. Watching this foreign policy unfold over the last couple of weeks here with. The conversation in the Ukraine, you had the El Salvadorian president come in. The signal gate itself is just the most insane thing. These guys are using a public app that is not encrypted. And in fact, Hegseth going so far as to install it on his computer. There's a sloppiness about them that you don't expect as the administration of the United States of America.
Yeah, and let me
and all we can do is just shake our heads and watch it right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And go out and talk about it and organize, and we got to change this in 3 years.
It's going to be interesting to watch the Dems grill this guy at his UN ambassador confirmation hearing. Oh, the Washington Post says the last person to have Secretary of State and National Security Advisor in one man was Nixon. And that man was Henry Kissinger. Interesting. Now, who is he modeling his administration after? One former Justice Department official says that the pardons, the Trump pardoning of people is costing $1 billion. I've been reading about how the Doge cuts, the so-called Elon Musk cuts, there's so many lawsuits that we're going to end up paying out more than we save, probably, in mass. And the U.S. Justice Department is terminating $800 million in grants, which is going to take away things like services for victim services in local jurisdictions, trauma centers, domestic violence, and even police training. So it seems like it's really just about imaging and positioning. Oh, look, we're doing all these cuts, even though some of these cuts are actually hurting them and their agenda too. Supposed agenda.
Well, in almost any region, the federal government is the anchor employer. And, when you start making these cuts, no matter what issue, you're taking away people's jobs, right? And now you're forcing people to scramble for new work, all while you're doing this tariff war, this trade war, and increasing consumer costs. And that's the that's the insanity of this whole thing, is that there's just an inordinate amount of pain being inflicted on Americans. And, half this country is just cheering it on. And it's like you're cheering on your own doom, your own hardship. And, we see these continual stories of, I see them anyway on social media where people are like, this isn't what I voted for,
Yeah. Yeah, but I've also been seeing ones where it's like, yeah, he's doing a good job. Yeah, we have to live through some pain, blah, blah. We shall see how much pain you're willing to really live through. The $1 billion number is crazy work because what she's talking about all the white collar pardons. And this is the money that these criminals were supposed to pay in fines and restitution that's now off the table. Okay, real quick, I want to get to this story because there's been so much criticism of the supposed defunding of the fire department, which is actually a talking point that turns out not to be true. Our mayor did not defund the fire department. Now we're finding out that LA Fire Department union leaders have been getting these huge paychecks, including the union president, Freddie Escobar, $424,000 in pay and benefits, then another $115,000 in a union stipend. A lot of this is overtime. And it's real shady. And when you look at, I love our firefighters for saving us. Those are the rank and file guys. Here we're talking about the elites within the fire department. We know they've been gatekeepers for stopping more black people from getting those jobs, stopping more women and others from getting those jobs. They got major pay raises through our current mayor. And the narrative that she defunded them is something that fire chief ran with, even though it's not true. And now we're finding out that these guys are padding their own pockets with these huge overtime billings along with union wages, stipends.
Yeah, when they say don't throw rocks if you live in a glass house. The point on it is you look at it, and I think all of the hours that he's drawing, revenue from, whether it's his firefighter salary or the time that he's supposed to be working with the union, I think it totaled out to something like 78 hours a week, something, almost impossible to do.
Right.
And, when you're double dipping like that, particularly with union funds or particularly with government funds, there is a case, and there's a conversation with Nathan Hochman around this behavior. The interesting part about it, you mentioned the narratives. He's the main one advancing those narratives that the the department hadn't been funded enough to handle the fires.
Right. Maybe if we weren't paying all your overtime for supposedly working 16 hours a day, we'd have money to fix the fire engines.
And, now going into the budget deficit that the city's got to handle, I expect this story to continue to grow. And it should have Los Angeles, really upset about this. Yeah,
I think it's a great point. I mean, the fire department, They should have been standing up and saying we were not defunded, and now to find out they're being funny with the money like this, they're now saying they're going to investigate and they're going to overhaul their procedures. Overhaul it now that the LA Times, finally did their job and did an investigative report. That's interesting timing. Ed Sanders, thanks so much for being with us, giving you this last minute. What you want to say, or tell us how to find you, or whatever.
Join us Mother's Day, doing some work with Councilwoman Heather Hutt, Council President Marquise Harris Dawson, City Councilman Kern Price, the Genesee Center, hosting a Mother's Day music festival down at the Michelle and Barack Obama Sports Complex on May 10th. Doors open at 11 a.m. Go get your free tickets at ilovemom.eventbrite.com. DJ D-Nice, Leela James, Rasan Patterson, 1500 or nothing. It's a great lineup. Come spend the day with mom and family and celebrate at a free concert.
Yeah, that's going to be fire. And guess who your MC is? Me. You can't go wrong with that. Yeah, thank you so much, Ed Sanders. Always working on great stuff. I appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Dominique. Talk to you soon.
Freedman Friday is next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is touting his fiscal 2026 budget as the best budget ever. It's a $115 billion plan that focuses on public safety, affordability, and quality of life issues. The mayor notes that there are no tax increases or job cuts.
We have not raised any taxes. We have not laid off any employees.
Mayor Adams says he's proud of that and will deal with whatever comes. A memorial to those killed in the Uvalde school shooting has been vandalized. The town's police chief called it senseless and cruel and says it has inflicted more pain in the Texas town west of San Antonio. Uvalde police say they are working to identify the individuals responsible and will hold them accountable. And jury selection starts Monday in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial after he rejected a plea deal. Little is known about the deal other than it included a lighter sentence in exchange for a guilty plea. He faces life in prison if convicted. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The clip